right. Hello, everyone. It's all right. Hello, everyone. It's the Gossip Guy, and we're back again for another weekly live stream to go over the news and developments coming from the world, powered by Hashgraph and the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem. So, wanted to first start off thanking you all that have joined us. I know, especially for us in the States, today is daylight savings time, so we lost an extra hour, or well, we lost an hour of sleep. So for the folks that have joined us, thank you. And also for anyone that's watching this, whether in Europe, India, or parts of Asia, welcome to the show. We have a pretty good agenda here, things we want to cover. So before I kind of dive into the actual topics that we're going to cover, I just want to kind of start off with some kind of housekeeping type of items here. So as I mentioned before, if you don't know me already, I'm the Gossip Guy. I'm an active member in the community, or the Hashgraph community, and as I like to say, I'm your source for news and developments from the world powered by Hashgraph and the Hedera ecosystem. As a disclaimer, I don't work for Hedera or Swirlds. This is purely done on my own time. So, I'm not receiving any compensation or anything by doing these videos. I'm just an active community member like yourself. And also for this live stream, at any point, if you want to join the discussion, we have the Gossip Group's Discord server that will be going. So feel free to join us on that for chat. Also, too, we got comments going on YouTube chat, so we'll get to those throughout the course of the stream. And also, I mentioned this in the stream we had last week, but this is just kind of like an ask that I have for you guys as the viewers is, so I'm very close to joining the partner program with YouTube, where basically I'll be able to, receive a share of the ad revenue whenever I do these videos. That ultimately will help the Gossip Guy, with my production and putting together like new videos in the future. So because I'm so close to making it, it's all based on total watch time. So as I asked last week, if for the folks that have joined, if you don't mind, either sticking through to the end, or if you unfortunately can't stay through the whole video, if you don't mind just leaving the window open in the background, letting it stream for a bit, that will help get the total watch time. So I would greatly appreciate it. And I even just put things in perspective, I also have the stream going on my phone here, so I can also get some watch time there. So I know that's a small ask, but I would greatly appreciate your help there. All right, so with all those kind of housekeeping items out of the way, let's go into the agenda as far as the things we wanted to cover. So basically got 4 things to touch base on for this week. So first we're going to start off talking a bit about transaction costs. We have some very interesting perspectives on that. So I'm really excited to feature like this segment. Next, we're going to talk about the Community Testing Program Phase 2, as this past week we got a little more insights as far as what the scope of that testing program is going to look like. Also, we're going to talk about the virtual workshop that was hosted on March 1st. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on it because I think there was some difficulties in being able to watch the workshop in total, but we'll just briefly cover some highlights. And then lastly, want to spend some time talking about some other updates as it relates to the Hedera Hashgraph Governance Council, as there were some other developments as it relates to that. But before we actually dive into this agenda here, we do have a special guest with us today. For folks that have watched previous live streams, this will be a familiar voice. But for anyone that is newly joining these live streams, you probably haven't met this person yet. And rather than me, introducing them, how about I turn things over to my co-host for this live stream, Mr. SupremeX67. And Yeah.
I, thank you, Gossip Guy. So, if you follow YouTube or Discord and the technology Hashgraph, then you probably know me. If you don't, then a little bit about myself. I've been following the technology since I'd say November of 2017. Yeah, that sounds about right. And whenever I see any YouTube comments, and I literally mean any YouTube comments on the technology, I either help the community trying to get in touch with developers, or answer general questions, or just straight out address the FUD out there. Unfortunately, it's a lot of crypto bro space, and a lot of people are jumping a lot of speculations on this technology, making false assumptions. So I try to make sure that the right information is out there. Um, Guarantee that if you're active in either community, you've seen my name at least a couple of times, for certain. I don't want to take too much time because I know we have a lot of stuff to cover. Uh, Gossip Guy,
Yep.
should we start, or did you want to
Well, I
have
was just
some?
going to just say before we transition here into the agenda topic, just to kind of add on. So, as Supreme X67 has mentioned, you probably have seen him in the Discord, chat for Hashgraph, and then also probably seen him on several YouTube comments out there. I just like to say a lot of folks like to consider Supreme X67 as the guardian angel of Hashgraph out there on the internet. But it's not purely because I think you're not solely doing it because like you're trying to pump things up and fluff things up as a whole. I think it's just a matter of like you come from a technical background, so you're just helping to kind of demystify some of the um, incorrect information that might be out there as it relates to Hashgraph. And I guess I'm kind of honored to have partnered with you to do these live streams, and also back at Hedera 18 have you to kind of help out with all the work that we were doing there. So
I just believe in the proper technology. Sorry, the proper education in the technology.
yep,
This thing is huge. If you look at any of the angles, governance, speed, the security. I mean, I looked around and look. It's not like I'm sold on the hash graph. I look almost every day to see if there's something better out there, and I'm having a really hard time finding something close. Maybe when we could talk about the next topic, that a couple of people is
yeah,
going to start seeing what I was seeing too.
yeah. All right. So I guess with maybe that being said, Supreme Max 67. How about we jump into the first topic? So we'll talk about transaction costs. So let me just pull up things on my end here, but I'll kind of hand it over to you to kind of queue up the topic. All right, take it away.
Okay, so is it? Oh yeah, it's already showing. Yeah, it looks visible. I think they can see it on the stream too.
Yep.
So hopefully you got your screen resolution if you're watching on your phone, at least 720p, so you can at least read what's on the screen. Um, what you see here is assumptions, speculations, and information that was found on the internet. So nothing will be 100% accurate. Just let you know in advance. What was going through my mind when I did this? Absolutely nothing. I was having a conversation with someone on Discord, and we I was letting them know that I know the cost. Now, the cost is the raw cost, not the actual cost for using network, because that can be done separately by the servers or the nodes holder. The actual cost in electricity for running that node. That's important because you want to be able to, when you're making your charges to the client or the API calls, you want to make sure that those costs are covered. So the lower the cost, the easier it is for the node to continue and operate. In March of 2018, they did mention that during their announcements of Hedera coming out, the public ledger, that they were able to do signature verification using a 1080 Ti. It was a single 1080 Ti. So I used that as a benchmark when I was looking at costs. They also said they were able to do 100,000 transactions per second. So on my first line here, I'll go
Oh,
to the next
hey,
next.
Supreme
Yes,
Max,
go ahead.
just to confirm too. So when you say 1080 Ti, You're talking about the NVIDIA graphic processing unit, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and that to be fair, that signature verification was overkill. A million signature verification per second is not needed. Obviously, I used average best gamer GPU cards, and most people have that at home.
Yep. Sorry
So
about that.
yeah, so I go based on what I already knew, that a system like that would be approximately 700 watts of usage. So starting, I'll just go the first line take my time, and the other ones I'll try to skim over it because I don't think we have enough time to cover all the details. And I will provide a link as well, right? We
Yeah,
can do a
yeah.
link for
We'll
this.
send out on that note too. We'll send out a link for folks that are on the YouTube chat and Discord. We'll pop it in there. But ultimately, after this stream is done, we'll share the link on that.
So the 39, it says number of nodes. That's what's the important to find out how many nodes in the network and how much wattage per node. So the number of nodes under the same shard network, 39. If you're thinking of the governance, it would be 39 nodes. The shards, when I was having conversation with some of the members, they said shards shouldn't be more than about 100. So that's why I put 100 speculated. And then how much it costs to run a single desktop with a GPU. And technically, if it's just sitting on the side, the monitor doesn't have to be on. So at the very least, you're looking at 700 watts of usage. So it doesn't take much to do a quick multiplication to see how much it costs for under that shard in terms of wattage. Right. So after that, I had to do a division based on 100% of the network, because 100,000 transactions a second was worldwide. That's how you want to achieve decentralization, not in a single area. And I figured if this network was only used at 10% of its efficiency, you're still having the wattage consumption, but you're making 10,000 transactions a second. So I took worst case scenario, best case scenario, and I ended up with these are microwatts. So 76 microwatts to 1,944. I think that's right? Microwatts.
Yeah.
Uh, you can see you can see it's a millionth of a watt of unit of measurement I had to use. And if you look really quickly down that chart, uh, everything I try to do and look that up, because I was asked to compare it with Bitcoin, Ethereum, NAM, Ripple, EOS, Neo. I mean, there's tons and tons of more projects, but these were the ones I was asked to do a quick comparison. Let me see who came the closest one. I think it was a toss between Neo and Ripple. And we're not talking about security of network or any other perks of the network, just straight out wattage, right? So I couldn't come anywhere near close what it costs in terms of electricity on Hashgraph.
Yep.
And you can double check your data. You see in my comment section where I got some of that information, and I welcome people to correct me on that. But I'm telling you, these numbers are pretty close to what it's going to come.
Right.
Electricity cost per transaction as well. The hash graph just has tons of zeros until you see a number there. And then here, what was different, I
Well,
have a
I guess on that note too, with the electricity costs per transaction too, like was there any like kind of like assumptions you were running there? Because
well,
I know sometimes
I
electricity costs can vary country to country.
yes. So that's why, based on again recommendation, I put the wattage highlight in yellow, because that wattage is measured equally across any countries.
Oh, right. Yep.
Down here, there's additional notes. First of all, data collected as of February 7th, 2019. That's very important to note. Was it 7?
Yeah.
7? I
February
think.
7th.
Oh, I meant to put February 27.
Oh, whoops.
I
Small note
actually,
there.
no, I can fix that live actually. No, it is 27 because that was not 3 weeks ago. I did that recently. Yeah, I fixed it. So electricity costs based off, I see it says that down there, 12 cents kilowatt hour. I
Got
think
it.
in the US, if you overconsume, that's how much you get charged.
Yep.
So you can see it in any way you want. You can do your own calculation since the wattage is mentioned there.
Mm-hmm.
But one important thing I'd like to mention in the comment section is Hashgraph is the only one of all the ones mentioned here that the cost per transaction would actually go down, because the bottleneck is not the hardware, it's the internet, and it's the only one where the bottleneck is the internet. As the other networks, in many of the cases here, as the other networks grows, the cost actually grows until they perform sharding. Because let me see, who does sharding in these ones. Um,
Well, I guess like Ethereum's got it proposed as part of like some of their Ethereum
right, but it hasn't
2.0.
happened yet, and they've
Yep.
been talking about it for a year.
Yep.
So far, as far as I can tell, I don't see anything on that list that it includes sharding. So
Yep.
as the network grows, the cost will grow.
Yep.
There's no way around it. So
Got it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anyway,
Yeah.
the link will be there. I'm not going to cover the other one. You can see it. Oh yeah, I forgot that at the beginning. Uh, my mind is everywhere this morning. So the optimal node is basically a node that someone would usually use to be set up on the network. And one of the things I found interesting during my research was the Raspberry Pi for the NEM network. Apparently, there are super nodes and there are million harvester nodes. Most of them can be run on Raspberry Pi, which I found that interesting.
Right.
However, the wattage for a transaction came to 68.4 watts. That's the equivalent of running a light bulb. So
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
that's
go
really,
ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, but it's really important to kind of like also take a look at this because, that's kind of the one drawback to, proof of work is that obviously it's really secure. Obviously, um, it's really game changing in the whole world of like decentralized like finance, but at the same time too has the major opportunity cost of like all the electricity that's needed to kind of support that. And ultimately, like we're not talking about like small amounts of negligible like electricity. Like we're talking about like kilowatts, which in the long run, that's not really going to be sustainable unless we have like sustainable, like energy sources to power it. Uh, so it's good to like have this viewpoint on like what is going to be like the wattage consumption or what's going to be the electricity consumption for powering transactions on top of these networks. And also, I know there's a lot of people out there that are interested in being, running nodes in the network when that time comes. And ultimately, this is going to be your kind of like, variable costs that are associated with it. So it's good to kind of start taking a look at this perspective. So sorry to kind of jump in there, Supreme Max.
Oh no, it's fine, and I can probably go on and on, but I think just to keep it focused on our agenda,
Yep.
we should jump to the next one.
Yeah, but I guess before we also jump off this one too, so like obviously these were probably like the easiest like public networks that you can pull this information on. I guess just
No.
oh
Actually, this was not the easiest list.
oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it in a degrading way.
EOS. Okay. Wait. I gotta answer that one. So, EOS, the 21 block producers, they don't publicize easily what type of nodes they use. I had to do a lot of searching on that one,
Yep.
and I found a reference.
Yep.
I found references on. Let me jump there. Say EOS.
Yeah,
EOS.
I guess what I was just like getting at is like there's other ones out there like IOTA, and then even ones that haven't been fully launched, kind of in the same state of development, like Hedera, like there's Definity, and also like I guess Constellation, which are other kind of like high performance like networks. Um, like I just wanted to just kind of like to your point in the beginning, like this is not supposed to be like in a an exhaustive list. Like there's some other ones out there, and yeah.
Yeah. Can you scroll a little bit to the right so they can see the comment section?
Yep.
It's not showing on the stream. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not showing.
You also have your references there.
Exactly, and I put it in bold. Only one place. I'm sure there's other places, but only one place I found posted specs on a type of node that you need. Block producers, EOS, EOSUK.io. I actually had published on their website, and if you ever look up that that machine, that's a server stack. I think they call it server stacks.
Yep.
I don't know how to pronounce that. Proliant DL380 Gen 10. look up the pricing on that. You'll see how much these nodes cost. They're extremely expensive. But that wasn't the part of the exercise here I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to see how much a node would cost, just the electricity costs. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was an interesting fun fact that they are currently running the most expensive nodes in terms of hardware to buy, and NEM was running the cheapest node in terms of nodes to buy. But overall, over time, the everything catches up, and it comes down to the wattage consumption.
Yep. Well, hey, just want to thank you for kind of sharing that because I know a lot of folks in the community are probably interested in like hearing about that. So, all right. So I guess Supremax, is it okay to maybe move on to the next topic here?
Yes, please.
All right. So the next topic we wanted to kind of touch upon is about the community testing program phase 2. So let me just pull things up on the browser here. So yeah, so I guess for the folks that joined us last week, we talked about just a recap of the community testing program phase 1. Don't want to go into too much detail on that, but I guess just some of the highlights there was that there was over 5,000 accounts that were created, and there was obviously lots of feedback from the community as far as how the program went. People got a chance to work with the wallet and also test out micropayments. But notwithstanding, there was some kind of setbacks in respects to the you know just how the people were ultimately setting up their accounts and accessing the network. So yeah, so basically Hedera put a pause on new account creation in order to kind of get things ready for phase 2. So also this past week there was a they call it A sessions, which is once a month the Hedera community management team gets together all of the ambassadors to kind of just highlight some of the developments and things that are taking place on the Hedera end, to also share with ambassadors so they can prep as part of like their local meetups, and some of the official kind of like responses from Hedera as far as like the pros and cons from phase 2. From phase 1 that I thought to kind of share with folks here is they're ultimately they got good results from the network's performance perspective. So they noted that the network was able to easily like handle like the load that was of like users that were like on the network. The micropayments ultimately were validated and confirmed, and that was working well. They also got the good feedback on user experience. But notwithstanding, as I mentioned before, the cons, they noted that there was some flaws in like the whole like account setup process, and there's some issues with people accessing the portal. I don't know if we have it here, but just as a fun fact, I don't know if this is because Hedera is doing some things behind the scenes, but I just pulled up here on the screen here the portal page, and it looks like there's some errors, with having to access that. So I know Hedera had to work out some things there. Also, along with that, there was some issues as it related to backlog for KYC. So I guess there were some kind of manual components in the process. So that just inherently took some time that needed to be to address like those particular users. And then also I guess there were some other issues with like accessing like the whole the daily timestamp the site and syncing up the browser plugin and wallet. But all things considered, I guess Hedera is gearing up for phase 2 of the testing program, which they are going to plan to make some announcements in the next couple weeks. They didn't give a specific date, but it sounds like probably at some point later on in March, they'll note that phase 2 will be opened up. They also note that as part of phase 2, they'll have some functionality available as far as file storage, and also enabling, I guess, like users not only on the I think more so on the test nets will have the ability to start testing out smart contracts, possibly testing those out on the mainnet. Also, for the developers, they noted that they're making improvements on APIs and also going to make some updates in the Hedera SDK. Of course, as they're offering it in different languages. And then also, as we pointed out before, some of the issues with the whole like account setup. They noted that they're going to streamline some of the processes involved with like the account verification process. Lastly, obviously this is a lot of stuff here, but lastly, they also note that in addition to featuring some of the capabilities of Hedera and letting users test some of the features of the network, they're also going to be launching a multiplayer game. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Daily timestamp was kind of cool to see how micropayments were able to kind of come together on the network, but it's also going to be really cool to see how like a multiplayer game also interacts with Hedera. So that was some cool developments. I guess just one thing I just also wanted to point out here too is that I guess like people that might be interested in joining the phase two of the program. One thing that we did note, and this is I'm pulling up a message that was shared on Telegram, is that I guess there was so many people that couldn't get into phase one. So there was a big backlog of people that were signed up to be a part of phase two, and it looks like as of I guess this past Friday, they've ultimately reached kind of like a full like I guess like the waiting list is entirely full. So yeah,
Yeah, if I can add to that,
yeah,
I
please go
think
ahead.
I think their backlog is full, but I don't think the spots are full. Didn't they said something like 100,000 testers for
Yeah,
Facebook?
so that was the thing I was kind of curious about because they said that actually for phase two they're going to be targeting 100,000 accounts instead of or maybe 10,000. I have to apologize. I have to confirm that number, but I know it was substantially more than what phase one was. So they're saying phase two is full right now. Geez, that's a lot of people that have signed up like accounts. So, was there anything else you were going to mention there, Supremax?
No, no, no. So if anyone's listening to the stream, don't worry about it. Just keep a close eye. Make sure you are signed up to their newsletter. And to be fair, when the phase one was going, there was plenty of time for people to get on and test it. I think it lasted for 2 weeks, two or
Oh,
3 weeks. So if you're reacting to it on the very first weekend from the announcement, you should have plenty of time to do the phase two testing. But do get the ball rolling if it lets you to open up an account on the portal. I mean, all of that is free at the time being. I'm sure when the network does become live, there will be a very, very tiny cost. The I don't know if they explained that to
yep,
the on YouTube, but there's a cost to have an account open. It's very, very tiny, and the reason behind that is they don't want people to spam the network with accounts.
yep,
And once it goes to anonymous status, that is.
yeah. Hey, so Supremax, I'm actually pulling up the comments here, and thanks to our also trusted partner here, Arvijas, who also commented that it's actually 100,000 accounts. So thanks for confirming that, Arvijas, and yeah, I always will trust anything that you recommend, just because I know you have an eagle eye when it comes to all these details related to the network. So yeah, so Supremax, it looks like it's 100,000 accounts. So that's like I said, I think that's pretty substantial. Like
Yes,
this,
and to answer the two questions that just popped up now, we don't know if there's going to be reward. We're assuming there will be, and we're making a lot of assumption here that it will be 1,000 as well, and people will already earn their 1,000, most likely not earn. So if you did phase one, you might not get reward for phase two yet to be confirmed. And when is phase two happening? Nothing has been announced.
yeah,
Obviously, they have to do it this year. We're thinking uh, before June. I don't think they'll wait till June to do this. So we're already in March. That
yep,
leaves us either this month or next month.
yeah.
That's again speculation here.
Yeah, well, they said that they would at least make an announcement at some point in the coming weeks. So I would imagine that there would be an announcement regarding phase two, coming out some point in March, and then you would imagine there's probably some time after that you know from that point then they would actually like announce or open up things for phase two and letting people get access to that. So yeah, I thought we would just take some time to cover that. And I guess before we move off of this point too, I had this pulled up before, but I had some questions from the last week. People were asking about like the whole account creation process and also wallet setup, and also how do you link your portal account and also the wallet. Um, I guess for anyone that's out there, if you haven't done so already, definitely go check out the Hedera FAQ page because they have some really, really, really good resources out there as it relates to all of that. I know it's can be a little overwhelming as far as all the information that you have to go through as far as like the account creation. But I would say, just from my own experience, like this is does a pretty good job at laying out like all those considerations. At one point, I was thinking about doing a video specific to like the whole account setup and also the wallet setup because I had some screenshots as related to that. But I kind of had to put a pause on that just because right when I was about to wrap up that video, that's right when phase one came to an end. So realized that it probably wasn't worthwhile to publish a video when no one's creating any accounts and new wallets. So yeah, I guess we'll probably do something at some point. Like once phase two opens up. But in the meantime, check out the FAQ page because there's a lot of good resources there. All right, so I think this kind of brings us to our next topic here, and this is specific to basically the virtual workshop that took place this past Friday. Now, originally I was planning on just giving some kind of highlights and giving like the cliff notes around the program. But unfortunately, and I think this applies to a lot of folks out there, the timing of when they had the workshop was just not ideal, especially for folks that have, it was either too early or also it was during work business hours. So some folks like myself were stuck in the office and couldn't, actually listen to the training session in full.
Yeah, like 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. You're out on like the Pacific time zone there. So yeah, I'm really sorry. Unfortunately, I don't have much to speak about on this, just because I was only really passively watching like the like the webinar. But the one things I will share to folks is just what the agenda was for the for the workshop. So yeah, like basically they covered DLT 101, just giving a background on distributed ledger technologies. I think for a lot of folks out there, that was kind of really basic and something that wasn't really new. They just kind of covered what a DLT is, talking about the differences between blockchain and a directed acyclic graph or a DAG. So that was really kind of fundamental background stuff. Then they went into the Hedera, public ledger, which I think at this point, folks that have been following Hedera probably have heard 1,000 times before. Yeah, that was like they covered that. And then that's when they started to kind of start branching off into the more specific topics. So they started to cover about micropayments on Hedera Hashgraph, how that all works, and also talking a little bit about crypto economics and how fees, are handled on the network. So although I wasn't able to watch the workshop, I was following along and watching the slides, and I will have to note that the crypto economics presentation or the crypto economics slides and also the topics that we're talking about were very similar to what was discussed at Hedera 18. So I would recommend that if if you didn't get a chance to watch the that workshop itself, do check out the crypto economics presentation done by Dr. Lehman Baird at Hedera 18, and then also Craig's presentation on the cryptocurrency 101 at Hedera 18 that also talked about some of those concepts that were basically worked their way into that workshop. Um, so yeah, then obviously they got into more details surrounding the APIs. How do you go about transaction? You know, queries, how keys and signatures are handled, looking in all the technical details around file storage, cryptocurrency, and also the smart contract service, and then just also overall process flows. So, like I said, I didn't get a chance to see it. I can't speak into too much detail, but notwithstanding, we do know that the Hedera team is going to be actually publishing the playback from the training. They're going to be publishing it to hashgraph.org. So I would imagine, given that it was a 4 hour long session, they're just probably breaking up the videos themselves. So they're just doing some editing on their end. So I would imagine in the next couple of days or so, we'll see the playback on hashgraph.org. And yeah, I'll make sure to kind of share the link once that's made available. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, sorry I didn't get a chance to watch it in detail. So fortunately, we have to be kind of brief on this topic. I don't know, Supremex, if you had any kind of thoughts on that.
I was going to do a cameo with that. I don't know if that was a good idea. I was going to say, "You have failed this." No, I'm just not going to say that. If anyone watches the show, you probably know what I was going to say. Uh, no, I I get it why they do it at that time, because stupid time zone, right? Um, sorry, my dog is looking at me while I'm streaming. He's very distracting that way. But yes, I'm hoping they load it on YouTube. I feel the YouTube community is very, I wouldn't say, I'd say respectful in general. So you go on different social media and you see a lot of people with emotion writing, not actually with their head. And so far, not when it first started. When it first started, Hashgraph was not very uh, received by the community. But the more and more that I'm looking at the YouTube video, it's looking more and more positive. People are starting to understand the tech. They're starting to accept what they're trying to do. They understand where they're coming from. They know that this is no joke of a team that's behind working this. And with the latest announcement, I don't think you spoke about it. The 5 council members that was recently announced. These are not guys that are gonna take this lightly. They're they're in it to make sure that this thing is gonna work, like something we've never seen before. I mean, I can't even think something in history that uh, companies or people have put so much effort since the pyramids. Am I wrong here?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, there's still this is still the really early stages of like development, and yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to kind of come in the months ahead and probably even years ahead. So we shouldn't be quick to kind of jump to conclusions here. Um, hey, Supremex, looks like we got some comments in YouTube chat. Maybe we just kind of jump over there for a bit before we transition to the next topics here. So just taking a look here, it looks like we answered some of those questions. So this is going back to the phase two. Looks like we clarified about the 100,000 accounts that they're looking to have set up for phase two. Yeah, like I know some folks were giving some compliments to Greg from Hedera for hosting the workshop. So yeah, if Greg Scullard is watching this, he did a great job. Fortunately, I just couldn't listen into the whole presentation, but I saw the slides. Looked really nice. And also, congrats to the Hedera team. That was really great that they were able to host like one of those workshops. Yeah, what else?
Oh,
KS, good morning.
you're already
Hello.
being someone asking you a question if you're gonna build a dApp. Uh, uh, well, you're not a developer, so I don't think you'd be making a dApp. But let me ask you and put some emphasis on that question or expand on it. If you had the option to open up a dApp, would you get a developer to do it for you?
Well, at this time, I would say things are a little bit early to kind of speak about that stuff, but I would say just if, in case people don't know, like, myself, I'm not a developer, as Supreme X67 had mentioned, but I do come from kind of like the kind of like business and like product management side of things. So I am familiar with, say, like building like SaaS company, using it in a working technology in an enterprise space. But I have been having some conversations with some folks in the community, so there's a lot of ideas that are out there. But I say things are just in very early stages of development, and I think the biggest thing is for us to kind of build a community first. Um, get people interested in Hashgraph as a whole. I think also just wait for open access to take place. So once everyone can get full access into the network, and then I think there's going to need to be a phase, like a period of time before we fully build dApps that are geared towards like commercial and like consumer users to focus on like building tooling for Hedera, so for developers to use. Um, so I think that's going to need to be kind of like a main focus point, like once open access is made available. So I guess for folks out there that are looking to build different types of like tooling and resources for developers or DevOps type of tools geared towards Hedera, I think that's a really good starting point to focus on. Yeah,
And they should do it while they should do it while it's all free, because I, I I think they did mention that the testnet will always be available, will always be open. But who knows? Maybe in the future, if the demand is too high, they may actually charge people to use a testnet. They haven't said so, but it does get to a point where if people are using testnet but they're not actually developing any making the technology available on hashgraph, I mean, if they're just testing ERC20 smart contracts and they're using this free service as a medium, which I'm sure some people may have done so by now, then yes, I do see at the point where testnet would actually cost something. Although they haven't announced this, I'm going based on logic here. If you offer something for free long enough, then two things will happen. Either the service will diminish, and I don't think they'll go that route. So the other route would be to have micro fees to do the test. So yes, if you're a developer, and even if you know nothing about Hashgraph, and actually I'm going to sidetrack a little bit on this. There's this guy called is it? I think it's Wes. If he's hearing the stream, he's like, "Oh my God, they talk about me." No, I'm just gonna find the reference. Yes, so on the under the Go SDK, and sorry, Wes, if you didn't want to be on the spotlight, I'm apologizing in advance. I think this guy's active in both Discord, ours, Gossip Guy, and their Hashgraph. Under the Go SDK channel, he's working really hard to understand the technology, and all I saw was excitement in his eyes. Although I didn't see his eyes, but it's an expression. A lot of excitement. He's free. Why not? You're a developer, and he's starting from scratch. I'm not joking. And I give him kudos. I wouldn't be able to pick up something like this. I'm not a developer, but I don't think I'd be able to do this from scratch. But if you have some basis for languages, I think it's Go, Rust, Python, C, C++, or is it C? A Protobuf, if you're familiar with that, Java. These are the languages right now they're expanding into it. So please take advantage of it, even if you don't plan on doing something Hashgraph. Who knows? Maybe it's going to help you understand better the technology. But
yep,
yeah, I'm winding down there.
yeah.
You better take it from me.
All right, I'll jump in here. So I guess the other thing too, before we move into the next topic too, just going back to the comments. I just wanted to also bring this up because I see Nick has joined us in the comments and also joined us on the stream. So we cover this in the last live stream. But speaking about people that are building on top of Hedera and creating applications, I mentioned before, Nick is the developer of hash-hashg.info. .info. So I'm pulling this up here. So I guess anyone that's watching this, if you haven't checked this out already, this is really cool to basically it's looking at all the different transactions that are taking place on top of the mainnet. I don't know how we call this Supremax. Like it's not a block explorer, but that's probably what people are more common with like Etherscan or blockchain.info. But I guess in the Hashgraph world, we would call it more of like an event scanner or a transaction scanner. But
Shows all the wallets
yeah,
they bounce in them.
yeah. So that's why I kind of want to call it a block explorer, but
Hmm.
let's just call it like a transaction recap. Or I don't know, Nick, if you have a better uh, term to call this, but yeah. Anyway, hash-hashg.info. You should check it out. It's really good to look at all the different transactions on the network. But one of the reasons I want to just kind of call this out, and I know Nick's joined us, is that hash-hashg.info recently announced their bug hunting bounty. So I'm just kind of pulling it up here, where you can actually earn H bars in order to identify bugs in handling some micropayments there. So I know Nick is in the comments there, so feel free to add some additional commentary on that. But it looks like it's a nice little kind of like game and feature that's been added to hash-hashg.info. So go check that out. And while I'm also making a plug on hash-hashg.info, another one just to keep in mind is HBAR Scan, being put together by a good friend Rafi. So yeah, make sure to check that out. But I don't think that one's as far along as hash-hashg.info right now at this moment. I know, just going back to the comments here, I know we were making the comments before about DApp development, and I think it looks like some of you guys might have disagreed with my comment about I thinking it's too early to build dApps on top of Hedera. Let me just clarify that. I don't think it's too early if you actually want to get in from a technical point of view, because you can clearly go in there and but I would just caution is that open access is going to be set at some point in time in the future. There's probably going to be some changes and tweaks with that. So obviously if you're good at handling change management, then that shouldn't be an issue. But some maybe developers out there might experience some kind of aches and pains when the final updates are made to the network. But at the same time too, like I said before, I come from like a product background. You also just got to make sure that you also have an addressable market of people that will be ultimately using the products or ultimately using your dApp. And I think just right now, obviously, a lot of us here are huge followers of Hedera and Hashgraph. So there's a good, kind of group of us that are following everything. But same time too, as far as like masses and like a large addressable market, I think that's still in its early stages of development. And user acquisition is going to be something that's going to probably be something that might be like a little bit of a hurdle in the early stages of the network once open access is made available. So only reason I just made the comment before was just I think that we're going to see like small amount of users in the beginning, but ultimately, if Hedera is able to get 100,000 accounts and continue to grow their user base, then yeah, then that's being addressed. But I think a lot of people tend to look at like when you have like markets that are in like in the millions, as far as potentially a good place to um, get some traction and launch products and services too. And as KS has mentioned in the comments, someone should try to develop a dApp to solve that. So hey, maybe someone should create like a referral app. So if refer people to join the Hedera network. So
Can you bring back the hash? That question didn't come in, but I'm figuring eventually someone's gonna have that question come in their head. If you can bring it just on the screen, I don't have it open on my side.
yeah, I got it up on my screen.
Okay, it's gonna take a little while. There we go. So I want to, because some people are gonna. I don't know if you can go back to the top.
Yep.
I wanted to address questions that will probably come up at some point where people are like, "What? There's someone that holds 46.4 billion hash bar?" Yes and no. So they've already made all the tokens ever needed. It's a set amount, which is 50 billion, and these are the undistributed. It's like I guess you could say that it's sitting in the treasury,
Yep.
the console treasury, but they can't use it for anything right now. And when they're doing the testing, they're taking a little bit out of it and giving it to people. And obviously, there's plenty of it to go around. Even if they gave a thousand each, that wouldn't even that wouldn't even make it go down by 1%. What I wanted to address that's a little bit less clear is like account 99, account 97. Um, these could be placeholder wallets. There's a lot of people who sign up when they purchase. They sign up to have themselves paid. I think it was 5 years later. Was
Mhm.
it? I can't remember how long it was
Well,
when.
well, actually, 99. That's the daily timestamp faucet. So that's where the rewards are coming
Oh,
from the
oh,
community
so
testing
someone
program.
confirmed that for you?
According to hash-hashg.info, according to Nick, it looks like they confirmed that. So,
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Nick. Sorry, I wasn't listening or watching to the. Well, you do have other amounts that are pretty big
yep,
in there too. And are these? Oh, they're decimals, right? Okay, yeah,
yep,
they're 8,000. Oh, they're not big. I thought that it was a comma, but that's a dot.
yeah.
So yeah, these wallets are actually pretty small, and it's interesting to see that there's no one right now that is a whale. As you can see, there's not a single whale. The closest whale is 32. Wow, 32,000. I wonder what that is.
Well, I'd hope that there's no whales because apparently there's supposed to be no token distribution just yet. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
But I yeah, that's great. I love this thing.
yeah,
It's the first time I see it. By the way, I wasn't curious to go take a look because it wasn't pertinent to what I was looking into it.
mhm,
Um, right now, it's too early anyway to know the distribution of wallets where things are gonna go moving forward. So, but now that I see it, I like it. It's beautiful.
yeah.
I'm glad someone spent the time to do it. I can only imagine. Look, the network's not even live per se, and we already have these tools in place.
Yeah,
HBAR scan.
yeah.
Um, you,
That's the other one. I mean, I know myself. I'm personally interested in all these because, like, especially for someone that's creating news and sharing stuff with the community, ultimately it's nice to have like an analytics tool to be able to peek in there to give stats and also kind of dig in on like topics, understanding like who some of these wallets are or transaction volumes. Um, 'cause that's really helpful. But also in itself, those businesses are also kind of lucrative too. Just looking at the other blockchain networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like there's EtherScan for Ethereum. There was blockchain.info for um, the Bitcoin network originally. But at the same time too, there's even these companies that have taken it a step further to also do further analytics and also identification of like different types of identities on these public blockchain networks. So if anyone's familiar with like companies like Chainalysis, Elliptic, CipherTrace, Neutrino, that's actually a very hot area right now in the DLT space. Um, so I won't go into too much details there, but I definitely recommend you check out those companies and see what's happening with them, um, because that's just an area of a lot of growth right now, like kind of like analytics and tools geared towards public networks. So hey, Supremax, I'm going to jump into our next topic here because I know we're starting to rack up on time here, and I don't want
yes.
to don't want to take away too much time from people this Sunday because I know there's some folks joining us, where it's really late now. But yeah, so the next topic we wanted to cover, and we'll be kind of relatively quick on this, um, is just the updates as it relates to the governing council And in particularly, there's kind of two updates that we wanted to talk about. Starting first with the announcement of Brett McDowell is the executive director and vice chair of the Hedera Hashgraph Council. Uh, and also looks like Hedera announced some of the committees that will be a part of the Hedera Hashgraph Council. So yeah, this announcement came out this past week, and apparently they've announced this executive director, Brett McDowell, to basically, I guess, if people are familiar with like these type of like organizations, usually you'll have like kind of like a person that will handle like kind of like the day-to-day operations over the consortium or organization itself. So it looks like Brett is brought in as like an independent um, director of sorts to kind of handle that. And at the same time, too, I'm pulling up the actual announcement from Hedera. It looks like Brett has come from a lot of experience as far as working in these like kind of industry consortium, especially within the IT space. So most recently, Brett was also it looks to be the executive director of the FIDO Alliance, or the FIDO Alliance. I'm just pulling it up here because this is just to confirm. So Brett is the executive director here. It looks like FIDO is basically a industry-wide alliance or consortium type of group as it relates to like identity. I have to apologize here. I was trying to find out what FIDO meant, but I would imagine ID stands for identity, and O is probably something for organization. So apologies for not confirming what the acronym means, but basically you can check out like this organization. But it looks like in a lot of ways it's industry group, alliance of sorts, and it's there to promote standards as far as identity and authentication on the internet. So Brett was the executive council member there, so it's great to see that he's joining Hedera in a similar capacity. So it's obviously great to have someone with experience and also an external party coming in there to add some additional like leadership and support to the Hedera Hashgraph Council. And I found it also interesting too that it wasn't like Hedera, you know, making someone from Swirlds as the executive director of the program. So it's great to see like an independent party came in there.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Gigi, I looked it up. FAS, the ID stands for identity, so it's not an acronym for two words. So FAS Identity Online.
There we go. Cool. Well, thanks for confirming that. Um, so I guess this was a interesting development. So it looks like Brett will be handling the overall operations of the governing council, but then also they in this announcement too they announced the different types of committees that Hedera will be setting up, and basically it looks like there's 5 committees that were announced. So a finance committee, which I think that's pretty obvious considering the treasury that Hedera is maintaining, and also the costs and operations that they're going to have to be paying for at the end of the day. So it's good that they'll have a committee that will oversee that. Technical steering committee and product committee. So I think this goes without saying that there would be, a committee in place to kind of be involved with that, especially as one of the roles of the Hedera Hashgraph Council will be directing the direction of the code base. Membership committee, so this will be kind of the handling of like new members as they come on to the council. So I think that was a pretty obvious one. Legal and regulatory committee, so this is clearly one of the things that we've heard from Hedera, that they were going to have a committee in place to kind of handle some of the regulatory compliance considerations for like the network. And this is where it was great to hear that DLA Piper was joining the governance council, because I'm sure they'll have a lot of representation there. And then lastly, it looks like they're having a marketing committee that will just be handling public relations and outreach and community development for the network. So I'm sure this is probably going to be a committee where the gossip guys wanting to get to know a lot of the folks in that space. Are you going to say something, Supreme Max?
No. I was going to, but I'm just looking at the time, so I don't want our users to be bored, which I don't think they're bored, but
Hey, we got a good number of people watching the stream right now, so yeah.
it's nice. It's nice, yes. Especially because in North America it's like still morning.
Yep.
People don't usually watch stream. As far as I know, don't watch stream on the morning. Did you cover all the topic for the console you wanted to?
No, and actually, I was going to just jump into the last piece here, but we'll be relatively quick on this. The other thing is in addition to this, the details that they announced around the committee and also the executive director, Hedera also announced some details as it relates to some clarity around the council itself. So I thought this was kind of interesting. I was going to spend a little more time going through each of these, but just in the best interest of time here, I recommend you just go check it out. So basically, they added some additional commentary around the council itself, because I know there was a lot of questions that people were asking around, like, hey, are these council members paying for their interests, in Hedera Hashgraph, and when are we going to see the membership agreement for Hedera Hashgraph, or is there going to be some sort of transparency into the council itself? So there was a lot of questions, and I think it's understandable from the community to kind of ask, after the council member announcement. So one of the things I have to credit Hedera Hashgraph for doing was that they on the FAQ page for around platform and governance section, they added a lot of additional details and clarification around what to expect with the council. And like I said, I think you should just go and check it out. But they clarified, what was the cost for the membership in like the council. We understand that actually members are only paying $100 to join the council itself, which that is a very small amount. So there's kind of like less of a financial incentive. It's not like the council members are putting like millions of dollars in and expecting to see a return. Like it's kind of like almost like a voluntary, sign up to be a part of the council. The other thing is they're asking about equity in the network. So I think at the end of the day, no council member has any equity in Hedera. Their participation just represents like a membership, and then that membership is passed on, when those council members like leave. But they do, while they're a member, they do get rights to, I guess, some sort of like profits per se of like, as we're aware, there's like network fees. So council members I guess, will be allocated a portion of those, especially as they're like for those members that are running nodes. That shouldn't have come as a surprise. Then they talked about the responsibilities of the council members, which I think we're all aware of. The full agreement itself, for the membership agreement, people are asking, "Hey, I want to be able to take a look at that." Well, I think it's fair to say that because they're adding more council members, they probably don't want to have that published at the moment, just partially because I think it. There's ultimately some degree of negotiations that need to take place with those like new members. So I don't think that they want to have that widely out there on the internet. Not because they're hiding anything. I think it's just more to help Hedera put itself in a position to negotiate with those new council members, that they don't want to have it like publicly distributed. But it looks like Hedera is going to publish that after all the council members have joined. And also, it looks like they will be publishing minutes from some of the committees, and those will be made publicly available. So I think that's good to hear. Also, I think another thing that was interesting, and this was actually not related to the governance council itself, but just around the SAFT and also the crowd sale. There were some questions raised over, hey, how are my token? Once the tokens are released, how are they going to be treated? Are they going to be securities or whatnot? And also, did Hedera have to pay taxes from that the crowd sale that they did over this past summer? There was a lot of chat that was taking place in Telegram a couple of I think 2 weeks ago by some very wound up people in the community. So it was nice to see Hedera publish some guidance as it related to that. So, like I said, this is under the SAFT and crowd sale section on the FAQ page under investment. But they published some guidance around how tokens will be handled, whether they're going to be utility tokens
You
or
wanna you wanna
securities.
highlight near the end where it says
Yeah,
Hedera has been meeting with the SEC to discuss Hedera's position regarding H bar. So they're working closely with the US
yeah,
for regulations.
yeah. So we'll just kind of think we kind of covered like the majority of these topics here. So yeah, so I guess this kind of brings us to the end. Um, I guess Supremax, just before we kind of wrap things up here, is there anything that you want to kind of say, or any thoughts you might want to share, or anything else you wanted to kind of cover before we kind of wrap up here?
Sure, if we had more time, yeah, I'd like to do more, but yeah, I just wanted to reiterate to what we've saw at the beginning of the videos. If you joined just a couple minutes ago, you might have missed it. The transaction costs, Gossip Guy will have a link to this. It's where I gather as much information as I could find on different projects. And it's interesting how much it would cost in terms of wattage to operate a node under certain networks. Why is that important? The more it costs in actual electricity to run an operation, the more you have to charge the people making API calls and using the network in return. And if you're not charging enough, then that money is being dipped from the investors' side. So you have this trending price that just keeps going down. So the chart link will be there. If you have questions, I'll keep an eye out on this YouTube channel, so you can always reply back to what I'm typing, and then I can always make edit if there's something wrong on it. Obviously, a lot of speculations, but it's accurate into what I was able to find. Math can always be wrong. Dr. Lehman Bird said it pretty well to himself. He said, I don't trust my own math. So following his wisdom, if you guys have any input. But yeah, it's this thing is not sponsored. This is just someone who challenged me, asking me what's the cost on these projects. There's so many cryptos. There's no way for me to cover them. Some of them took me 2 hours of nonstop research just to find a little bit of information. So very few of it is public, and it's a pain in the butt. So hopefully you
Yeah.
can take a look at it, because I put a lot of effort into it,
Yep.
and I'll do some edits if there's stuff that needs to be corrected. This is only the main network, or the main nodes, the main chart. Nothing about off scale solutions is being covered. I'm just the main net. Anyway,
Yep.
take it away.
Well, yeah, no, and that's all the more reason why we wanted to kind of highlight this on today's stream, just because there was a lot of work that went in there, and yeah, it definitely appreciate like your research and want to kind of share that with the community. So yeah, so I guess this is the end of our stream. So thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate you folks that have stuck with us for the full hour and 18 minutes now. So thank you for that. Also, for folks that have been playing it in the background, thank you so much because ultimately it's helping with the watch time, which I'm greatly appreciative of. But also, more importantly, thanks for everyone for also participating in the comments here. It looks like we've had some really, healthy discussions. I hope you found this to be very helpful, also informative. I have to make the pitch here, but if you found this also to be helpful, make sure to smash that like button. It also helps with discovery on YouTube. If you're new to this channel, also make sure to subscribe. Greatly appreciate your support. Um, Also, if you guys don't mind, after this live stream is done, if you don't mind leaving some comments, let me know what you thought as far as just the format, the topics that we covered. I think this might be something I'm going to continue going forward, doing these regular live streams of sorts, and then bringing on different guests to talk about different topics. I was doing this last year, but I wanted to kind of continue it on for this year. So let me know what you think. And yeah, I hope to be back next week with some more content and some more things to share with everyone. So thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your participation. Most importantly, thank you, Supreme Max 67, for co-hosting today's episode. And yeah, I guess we will see you all in the live stream hopefully next week. So thanks all, and that brings us to the end of today's show.
Thank you, Gigi, for being the #1 fan of Hashgraph.
Well, thank you for being the trusted co-host there. So, all right, everyone, have a good Sunday, and we will talk soon. And hey, if you want to continue the conversations, you can leave the YouTube chat going, and also join us on Gossip Group's Discord server for further discussions. All right, thanks everyone. See you later.